We're coming to you live from the Heidelberg Aerodrome in, east of Johannesburg, where the annual air show and the International Civil Aviation Day will be commemorated. We do understand that Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula will be delivering the keynote address marking the International Civil Aviation Day. And, of course, later on, we'll see, a display of acrobatic displays from some of the light aircraft. I see quite a number of students walking in, and I do understand that about 500 scholars will come here to get a first-hand experience about, the whole machinery of civil aviation. And, all morning we spoke to quite a number of politicians and industry experts about civil aviation and what this day does, or how this day is important for the local machinery of civil aviation and as a global connectivity engine. But we didn't actually discuss in greater detail the technicalities of civil aviation, what civil aviation is, and we have with us this morning somebody from the Air Traffic Navigation Services, which is a very technical arm in terms of the whole machinery of civil aviation. And we also have quite a couple of students here who've taken up the interest in civil aviation. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and a warm welcome to Morning Live.
Morning.
Okay, I'm gonna start with you youngsters. So what is it about civil aviation that fascinated you? First of all, just give us your name and where you're from.
Oh, my name is Kwazi Jinga. I'm from Heidelberg town.
Okay.
What fascinated me about the civil aviation machinery is just flying. I've always wanted to fly ever since I was young.
Okay.
Yes, I've always been fascinated by aircrafts, and my biggest dream has to be up in the air and flying one myself. Yes.
So have you taken up subjects that will lead you towards this career?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I do science and maths and accounting, because if aviation doesn't work out, I'll do accounting.
As a backup?
Yes, a backup.
All right. Young miss, a very good morning. Welcome to Morning Live. First of all, tell us what your name is, where you're from, and what your interest is in aviation.
Morning, my name is Bonolo Elizabeth Nkabane from Retanda Extension 6. Today, I'm here to learn about air transportation and more about carriers.
So is it something that you really wanted to do, or you're just fascinated from a distance?
No, it's not something I really wanted to do. When I grow up, I want to be an actress, not a pilot.
Okay. All right, point taken. All right, we're also joined by Maukane HB Manala from the Air Traffic Control Services. Maukane, a very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And I've mentioned that ATNS is the the bolts and nuts element of aviation. So what does the company do?
That's true. Thanks. Morning. ATNS, which is Air Traffic Navigation Services. So what we do, we control any entry of air traffic movements in and out of the country, and of course in collaboration with our South African Air Force. So we're entrusted to safeguard any movements within the airspace, even including the air show as well that we're going to have today here. Our air traffic controllers are sitting in the tower there to make sure the air show later on, it's conducted as safe as possible, and with all our partners that are around here. And as young man has mentioned, wanting to be a pilot one day, so the coordination between those pilots and our air traffic controllers, it will be, we make sure we facilitate that it's successfully controlled in this airspace. Yeah.
What does an air traffic controller do? I mean, we've heard incidents of collisions. Well, even though we haven't experienced fatal collisions here in South Africa, but we've heard such instances. What would the cause when there is an air traffic controller?
Okay. So with air traffic controlling, ATNS, what's unique about what we do, we have our own academy where we then train like young men like himself after matric. We absorb young South Africans after matric, the ones that have done pure maths and the science subject is mentioning, English. Then we train them from scratch. Obviously make sure that these collisions you're talking about, that they get the adequate training until they become air traffic controllers, that we make sure that with communication between the controllers and the pilots, there's no movement either on the ground or around in the airspace that's not well coordinated, that you don't find two aircrafts at the same level, at the same position at the same time. Yeah. So continuous communication, thorough training, it ensures that such things do not happen.
Well, I mean, in instances where it actually happens, because it has happened before, so what would the cause be? Because if an air traffic controller is in office, why would such happen?
Mostly it's miscommunication. So it's human, because we do make mistakes as human beings. So it may happen that an instruction is not to enter a certain area, and then maybe it's misunderstood. But what we do, we make sure that as an air traffic controller, you observe the area that you're working in. If you give an instruction, you follow it through by making sure that it's the instruction is followed according to the letter.
Okay.
If you see any movements that's not aligned with what you said, you repeat that instruction, make sure that does not happen.
Okay.
If you go into what our Civil Aviation Authority does as well, when we look into investigation, when we look at what the causes of accidents could be, if you look at shows like National Geographic, they'll give you some of the examples where some of the mistakes may be. So with the training, we ensure that we minimize the risk as far as possible.
Okay.
But as human beings, we make mistakes. However, in the training, we make sure that you are aware of such mistakes or such errors that can happen, and we try to avoid them as far as possible.
You did mention that the ATNS is on a recruitment drive, recruiting some of these students, especially those who did pure maths at matric level. So, for purposes of inducting them into the learnership program. So, what are the numbers are you looking at? How many are you taking at a go?
So majority of the time, or how our program runs, the initial program is about 3 to 4 months. So mostly in the year, we'll have 4 programs running in the year. So, if you look at a year, if you break it down in about, let's say 3, I'll call it maybe let's say 4 quarters.
Yes.
Then you have like maybe 4 to 3 programs every year that we take about 20 students each in every program from matric. Then they do the initial programs about 4 months or so. Then we take them to the station, which is the aerodrome towers that we have throughout the country.
Okay.
They get a bit of exposure, come back to our academy, which is right behind Owa Tambo International Airport. They get further training there for the next stage. Then they go become assistants of the air traffic controller sitting in towers like this. And then after that, then they go back to the academy. So it's different phases. So to get from, let's say, from after graduating from matric to being a fully fledged air traffic controller, it could take anything from 2 years to 4 years from all the programs you do in between. In fact, on that note, yesterday there was actually graduation at the academy. About 9 of our graduates just became air traffic controllers. So I was there yesterday. So those are the programs that we do. But also on the engineering side as well. So let's say someone goes finish an engineering degree, or it could be a BTech at the university. We also absorb those ones. Then we train them on a specialized the equipment that we use. Then they get trained on how to manage our radar systems or the system that we use to manage traffic. We have displays that our air traffic controllers use to manage traffic that they see that's flying further away where you cannot see with your naked eye.
Right.
So then they learn how to use some of those equipment.
Okay. So what are some of the areas of cooperation between the ATNS and some of the key stakeholders in the aviation industry, maybe like the International Civil Aviation Authority and the South African Civil Aviation Authority?
Yeah. So I'll start with maybe the South African Air Force. From a security point of view, so as a country itself, any entries or any movements outside the country that comes into our country, whether it could be state flights or any dignitaries that could be coming this side of the world, or just regular flights itself. There's a coordination between ourselves, South African Air Force, to make sure that whoever flies in and out of our country, they fly in safely and they leave safely as well.
Okay.
So with the civil aviation, they make sure, I would say that they're an oversight from a regulatory point of view to make sure that we continuously comply with the rules. And again, with the International Civil Aviation Authority, we make sure we align with what the globe is doing, or moving along with any sustainability issues or environmental issues, or whatever equipment we're buying. Are we trying to align with that? Are we making sure that even the aircraft that are flying in and out of here, are they aligning with the issues that we have of climate issues per se?
Okay, so you basically play a regulatory role as well, regulating some of the airlines.
Yes, we do, in conjunction with the Civil Aviation Authority, because they're the overarching regulator in the country.
Okay.
And then we align what we do with that the International Civil Aviation Authority is doing.
Okay.
So yes, we make sure we regulate what comes in and out of each and every airport, and assisted by the Civil Aviation Authority.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And what's your role in today's air show?
Me here, my role, first and foremost, I would say it's young people. It's just to make sure that we encourage them as far as possible, and then make sure that they know that there's careers in aviation, either maybe in the Air Force or in civil aviation or in air traffic controlling. We're here to give them as much information as possible, so they make the right decisions from an early age. That, as state-owned entities, is one of our objectives to make sure that we eradicate, if I could call it, poverty in households, or make sure we improve any should I say, financial states of every household if we can.
Okay. So Now, Big Boy, have you done some research or reading on, civil aviation since you want to take up aviation as a career? Like, who are some of your role models in this industry? Do you have any?
Currently, no.
Okay.
I do not have any. But then I kind of did some research on it,
Yeah.
and like the requirements needed to be in the field of aviation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I'm still going to look into it because I haven't gotten the time to.
So what is it that you want to do? Do you want to be a pilot? Because, there's different facets or there's different levels or elements in civil aviation. There can be a pilot, you can be an engineer, you can be a mechanic, you can be a drone operator as well. What do you want to do?
I want to be a pilot.
A pilot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I want to be a pilot, but if being a pilot doesn't work out, maybe I'll go into engineering too.
Okay.
Because those are the big fields I want to be in.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And what do you want to be? Or you said you want to be an actress. So you haven't considered you haven't considered the thought that you might even change your mind later on.
Nope, I won't change my mind.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Well, those were two students, and as well as Maukane Manala, the air traffic controller from the Air Traffic Navigation Services, just taking us through the whole machinery of civil aviation. Well, we're coming to you live from the Heidelberg Aerodrome. Today will be the International Civil Aviation Day. The day is actually celebrated on the 7th, but it will be celebrated today. And Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula will be conducting the keynote address at about 11 a.m. Central African time, and then we'll see the acrobatic displays later on. About 500 students, as part of the learnership program, will be coming in here to get a first-hand experience of what the aviation industry and what the aviation machinery looks and feels like. And we've spoken to the Deputy Minister of Transport earlier on, who said that it's a very important aspect of aviation because it's sort of a catalyst for the boosting or the propping up of tourism here in South Africa, because people cannot travel without planes. And we also spoke to the local mayor here earlier on, who said that the N3 corridor will be, a hive of aviation activity, as there will be launching in later years to come a cargo airport.